Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be cutting this beautiful dress, and by the time you're going to be watching this video, the sewing video would have been already out. So go ahead and check the link in the description box to check it out. So without wasting your time, let's go straight into the video. So this is my basic body. I've already drafted it out, but for the sake of beginners, I'm going to be explaining it. So I've marked my shoulder to my chest line, which is my armhole line, my shoulder to my bust line, my shoulder to my under bust, and my shoulder to my waist. And I've also marked my armhole curve. And for my neck width, I marked 3.5 inches. For my neck depth, I also marked 3.5 inches. So make sure you take your own measurement before placing your marking. And just as you can see, I've also marked my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, because I want the upper part of this dress to have a princess dart cut. But you can also make this dress with a waist dart. This is just my preference. So on the under bust, I went ahead to mark 0.5 inch on this side and 1.5 inches on this side. Then on the waistline, I marked 0.5 inch on this side and 1.5 inches on this other side. Then I went ahead to connect my markings. So from the bust point, I came down by 0.5 inch. Then I used my curve ruler to connect from that point to the under bust, just like this. So the next thing I did was to divide my armhole measurements by 2. What I had was 3.25 inch. So I marked that 3.25 inch at this point. And after that, I went ahead to connect it to 1 inch above the bust point that I had already marked. And so from this point, I marked 1.5 inches for my dart intake. Then I also connected it to that point, just like this. So the next thing I did was to mark the bust measurements divided by 4. And on the under bust, I marked the under bust measurement divided by 4, plus the 2 inches I'm going to be cutting out for my darts. And on the waistline, I also marked the waist measurement divided by 4, plus 2 inches for my dart. And after that, I went ahead to connect my points. When I was done with that, the next thing I did was to mark my halter neck. So to do that, I marked 2 inches from my normal neckline, just like this. And after that, I went ahead to connect my points. This is going to be the neck band around the neckline. So the next thing I did was to come down by 2 inches. But if you want yours to be more open like the one you're seeing on the thumbnail, come down by 3 to 3.5 inches. And so from that 2 inches, I'm going to create a new armhole curve. But before I do that, I'm going to be extending my dart leg so that I don't have any shortage of fabric around the armhole. So I folded in my dart just like this. Then I taped it down with my paper tape, just like this. And after that, I used my curve ruler to connect from that 2 inches to the armhole curve. But if you're working with 3 inches, connect from your 3 inches to the armhole curve. And when I was done with that, I went ahead to get rid of the tape and I reconnected the broken lines. If you're a little bit confused, you can watch what I'm doing. You will understand. It's very simple. So I'm just going ahead to shade the part I'm going to be cutting out. And after that, I went ahead to add my sewing allowance before going ahead to cut it out. And please note that when you're cutting your pattern, that you cut it correctly. As you can see, I'm carefully taking my time to do that. So watch how I'm doing it, then do the same on your pattern. And if there is any parts you do not understand, drop your question in the comment section. I will definitely attend to it. And this is it. I have done that, and now I'm going to be separating this part from the main bodice because I'm going to be cutting this on the fabric separately. So I'll do that, then I'll set the front piece aside. And this is my back basic body. I've gone ahead to mark my zipper allowance, and for my back neck depth, I marked 1.25 inch. And this is my chest line, and this is my waistline. And as you can see, I've marked my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. And I've also taken a dart of 1.5 inches, but you can stick with 1 inch. So the next thing I did was to mark the bust measurement divided by 4. And on the waistline, I marked the waist measurement divided by 4. Then I added the 1.5 inches for my dart. And after that, I went ahead to connect my points. So for my halter neck, I marked 2 inches just like I did for the front piece, and then I extended it to the zipper line. And at this point, I came down by 2 inches just like I did for the front piece. Then I used my curve ruler to connect it to the armhole line, and that is going to be my new back armhole curve. And when I was done with that, I went ahead to add my sewing allowance. So the next thing I did was to go up by 1 inch from the waistline, and then I connected it to the side seam just like this. This is to allow the back parts to sit perfectly with the lower parts by the time I'm done joining them together. And to get rid of my zipper bulge, I came in by ½ an inch from the waistline, then I connected it to the zipper line, and that is it for the back piece. So I'll go ahead now and cut out my pattern. And for the back neck band, I'm also going to be separating it from the main piece. So I'm going to get the front neck band and I will tape it together with the back neck band. Just make sure that by the time you're taping them together, that the shoulder line of the back is matching the shoulder line of the front. So try not to mix it up. And that is it for the upper bodice. But before I cut it out on my fabric, let me first of all cut out the lower parts. So this is my fabric. I folded it in a bias form. And note that when you're done folding your fabric, you should have at least your waist measurement divided by 4 plus your sewing allowance. And the wider your lower part, the more fabric you're going to use. And for the length of my lower parts, I'm going to be deducting my half length from my total length. My total length is 62 inches. So when I deduct 17 inches from 62 inches, I will have 45 inches. So I'm going to be adding 2 inches to that 45. That will give me 47. But before I start placing my markings, I went ahead to make sure that I have enough fabric folded. Now the lower part, I had about 23 inches, and that should be enough. But if you want yours to be more wider, then you have to fold in more fabrics. So at the edge here, I marked my waist measurements divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance. And from that top, I marked my total length, which is 47 inches. So I will place my markings all around, then I will go ahead to cut out my fabric. And when I'm done with that, I will place it on another folded fabric. Then I will use it to cut out my back piece. The only difference is that I'm going to be adding my zipper allowance to the back. So this is the front and the back piece. I've already cut them out. So I'll go ahead and slit the back open. And in case when you're done cutting, you notice any parts that have any shortage, just like this, use your piece of fabric and join them neatly. Just like this part, I'm going to be joining it with my piece of fabric. And when I'm done with that, I'll go ahead to set it aside. So for the front design, I'm going to be slitting the center front open, but I'll be doing that when I'm done joining them together. And that is it for the lower parts. So for the upper part, I've already gone ahead to cut out my piece of fabric, and this is it. I've added my joining allowance. So in the next video, I will show you how to put them together. And I've also gone ahead to cut out my pockets. So this is it. The length is about 8 inches. And for the wideness, I have 10.5 inches. You can basically give it any shape that you want, but this is what I prefer. So in our next video, I'm going to be showing you how to join these pieces together. So see you in the next video. Stay blessed.